Nothing that happened to you today hurt you. Your opinion of it did. That sounds like the kind of thing someone says to avoid taking anything seriously. It isn't. It's actually one of the most demanding ideas in the history of human thought. And it came from a man who had every reason in the world to be destroyed by his circumstances, and chose, repeatedly and deliberately, not to be. Epictetus was born a slave in ancient Rome. He had no rights, no freedom of movement, and at some point suffered a physical injury to his leg, likely at the hands of his owner, that left him permanently disabled. By any measure the world handed him, his life should have been defined by those facts. It wasn't. What he built, instead, through nothing except the quality of his thinking, became the foundation for one of the most enduring schools of philosophy in history. Roman emperors studied his work. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire, kept Epictetus's teachings as a personal guide. Soldiers, prisoners, and leaders across 20 centuries have reached for his ideas when everything else fell apart. So what did he actually figure out? In his time, the Roman world was full of people trying to control outcomes. Politicians maneuvering for power, merchants anxious about fortune, citizens at the mercy of emperors who could change the rules on a whim. Life felt unstable because it was unstable, and the standard response to instability was to grip harder, do more, plan better, worry longer, try to secure every variable. None of it worked, because it never works. The variables don't cooperate. The plans meet reality. The empire you spent your whole life building can be taken in an afternoon. You already know this feeling. You make a plan, something goes sideways, and suddenly you're not just dealing with the problem. You're re-dealing with the anger about the problem and the anxiety about future problems and the frustration that you even in this situation at all. The original problem was the smallest part. The reaction is what actually cost you. Epictetus looked at this pattern and asked a question nobody around him was asking. What if the problem isn't the event itself? What if the problem is the story you attach to it the moment it happens? He was a slave. He had no illusions about being able to control his external circumstances. That forced him to look somewhere else entirely. And what he found there changed everything. He drew a line, clean and absolute. On one side, things within your control. Your judgments, your intentions, your responses, what you choose to pursue, and what you choose to avoid. On the other side, everything else. Other people's opinions, your reputation, your health, the weather, the economy, whether the flight is delayed, whether the person you love decides to stay. Most people spend their entire lives working on the wrong side of that line. They exhaust themselves trying to manage outcomes, control perceptions, and prevent pain, none of which is actually available to them. And they neglect the one thing that is completely and always available: how they interpret what's happening. He wrote, "Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things." Sit with that for a moment. Not the things themselves, the opinions about the things. The interpretation. The label you apply the instant something occurs. This is a disaster. This is unfair. This shouldn't be happening. That gap between the event and your reaction, the fraction of a second before your mind assigns meaning, that is where your actual freedom lives. Epictetus called this the most important skill a human being could develop. Not rhetoric, not strategy, not strength. The ability to catch your own interpretation before it runs away with you. He wasn't talking about pretending bad things are good. That's not what this is. He was talking about the difference between what actually happened and what your mind immediately adds on top of it. Your colleague takes credit for your work in a meeting. That happened. It was real. But notice what comes next. The instant commentary your brain provides. They always do this. Nobody respects me. I'm never going to get ahead here. This whole place is corrupt. None of that is the event. All of that is your mind's interpretation, building a structure of meaning on top of a single moment. And you're already living in that structure before you've taken your next breath. What Epictetus is pointing at is the possibility of catching yourself there, right in that gap, before the story takes over. This is genuinely difficult. It requires the kind of self-awareness that most people never develop, because nobody teaches it and it doesn't come naturally. Our minds are built to interpret fast. Slow, careful examination of your own reactions feels like swimming against a current. But it can be trained. He trained it by asking one question over and over about anything that disturbed him. Is this within my control or outside it? Not, is this fair? Not, is this what I wanted? Just, is this mine to control or not? If it's not yours to control, your opinion about it is optional. You can choose not to hand it the power to ruin your afternoon, your year, your relationship with yourself. If it is yours to control, then stop narrating and start acting. This is where most people get stuck with Stoic ideas. They hear, "Don't be disturbed by things outside your control," and they translate it as "don't care about anything." That is the opposite of what Epictetus taught. He cared enormously. He cared about virtue, about honesty, about how he treated people, about whether he was thinking clearly. He cared about everything on his side of the line with full intensity. What he refused to do was care about outcomes the way most people do, as if outcomes were the measure of whether life was going well. Because outcomes are not yours. Your effort is yours. Your attention is yours. Your character is yours. The result belongs to the world, and the world will do what it does. Think about how differently you'd move through a difficult week if you genuinely operated this way. Not performing stoicism for people watching, actually asking the question, is this mine to control? The job rejection? Not yours to control. But how you prepared, how you showed up, what you do next, completely yours. The argument with someone you love? Their reaction is not yours. But your tone, your honesty, your willingness to actually hear them, entirely yours. The diagnosis, the loss, the thing that lands on you from completely outside your life and changes everything, not yours. But what you carry forward and how, whether you let it make you bitter or whether you build something with it, that's yours. Epictetus walked with a permanent limp through a life that started in chains, and he became one of the freest thinkers who ever lived. Not because his circumstances improved. They did, eventually, but that's not the point. He became free, in the only place freedom is actually guaranteed, inside his own mind. He left us a test. When something bothers you today, before you react, before you spiral, ask where the real disturbance is coming from. The event, or your reading of it. Most of the time, if you're honest, it's the reading. And the reading can be changed. That gap between what happens and what you feel about it is not nothing. It is, in his view, the whole of human freedom. And most people never even notice it exists. The event is not the wound. Your judgment is, which means you have been holding the power this whole time. Subscribe if this one made you think differently. The next video goes deeper into how Epictetus trained this in his students.